You're listening to TrawlCast.
Welcome back to episode 18 of TrawlCast. I'm Seth McClellan.
I'm Sean Matthews.
So this week, we've got a special topic, something that's been on our minds a lot, that we've been thinking a lot about. Sean, why don't you tell everybody what this episode is all about?
Yeah, so this week, ladies and gentlemen, we have decided to talk about recording and like what we've done in the past, you know, some of the places we've gone, some of the people we've worked with, and we have it hot and heavy in our minds because, one, we've been gearing up to start recording a brand new EP. The pandemic has given us an opportunity to do that, too, because we can kind of focus on writing the music, recording it, making sure it's how we want to do it. And another reason that this is, like, heavy in at least my mind personally is with my other band, Devil's Night Out, I recently just finished recording a CD with them. I literally yesterday.
Awesome.
We're recording this on the 21st of September, and yesterday the 20th, I just finished the last two tracks that I had to do for that EP, or excuse me,
Awesome,
CD.
man.
So that's one of the reasons we're deciding to talk about this week, is because we're really deep in the idea and thought process of recording. So, Seth, let's start off about just talking about some of the processes that we personally do when we go in to record a new song or a new CD. Like, what are some of the, maybe it's your, I don't want to say, your habits or your rituals, but how do you prepare to record? For you, for bass lines and what you do.
So, the first thing I always do is probably about, I'd say 2 or 3 weeks before we go into the studio, I'll put new strings on, because I like new strings, but I don't like brand new strings for recording, because it takes them a little bit to break in where they're not falling out of tune as easily. So I like to have new strings, but not fresh, brand new strings, because bass strings can, go flat on you pretty easily if you just put on brand new strings and then you go straight into the studio. The other thing that I do is I always get my bass intonated, which I have gotten a little bit better over the years at doing it myself, but in the past I've had friends. Actually, Tom is a whiz at intonating instruments. He's awesome at it. So he's helped us a lot in the past, intonating guitars and basses. But I'm getting pretty proficient at doing it myself. So I always make sure that my bass is intonated, and I always make sure I have, fairly new strings within the last couple of weeks. And that's kind of a good, preparation for me as far as my instrument goes.
Which is, I gotta say, that's something I know a lot of guys may not think about when they go in to record, is the intonation of your instrument. That's big, because that can change the whole dynamic of your instrument.
Definitely, and depending on the song, and depending on where you're playing on the neck in a certain song, it can greatly affect how the recording comes out in terms of being in tune or out of tune, just from not having your instrument intonated. So if you're trying to figure out where the problem lies, where you're I can't get in tune or something like that, that's a lot of times it's intonation.
Right.
And as far as preparing, creatively with the song or songs that I'm working on, I always it's pretty obvious, but practice is, so important. I really try to make sure that I understand what everybody else is playing. I try to understand my part within the song and just go over it a lot. I try to do this thing I like to call getting all the skeletons out of the closet of the song, because when you're playing a song live, or you're used to just practicing it, and you're not listening to all the parts, it's easy to not understand, certain transitions, or what another riff is doing and how you're complementing it. So I try to like psychoanalyze, or actually not psychoanalyze, but just analyze everything and go, okay, do all these transitions work? Are we working with each other? Is there a part where I'm overplaying or underplaying? And then just really try to understand the composition, so that way there you're not going to run into all those problems once you get into the studio, or once you start recording.
Right. And that's good, because you're kind of working through, almost like you're getting rid of the yips, as baseball players put it. You're working through the song. You're finding the spots that may get a hiccup, or maybe you never really caught exactly what the guitarist is doing or the singer's doing. So being able to take the practices and work through them, it helps you basically tighten yourself up, as well as understand the song better.
Yeah. And there's always things, even if you're diligent and you try to do that, there's always going to be stuff. And sometimes it can be a good thing, because we've had parts in a song change a little bit for the better, because I thought one thing and the guitarist thought another thing, and then we ended up settling on something different. Or you get in there and you realize, oh, compositionally there's something that's not working, and then you kind of work through it, and hopefully it ends up a little better for it. Like sometimes you don't know until you know. So it's like there can be like those things you discover, but I think like if you can figure out 90 to 95% of that stuff before you get into the studio, it's always a better thing. And that's speaking from somebody who's generally, gone into a traditional studio, and you're paying for the time, you're paying for the day, and you're needing to nail it that day, and that's your moment, that's your opportunity. Whereas the other form of recording is to kind of, if you're recording yourself, or if you have other resources available where time isn't necessarily of the essence, like if you're recording at home or whatever, you have more leeway to play it again, try it again. But I'm kind of speaking from that old school experience of, you gotta nail it. Gotta nail it. Yeah.
What's up, guys? This is Will with Twin Grizzly, and you're getting nuts with TrawlCast.
And how about you, Sean? What are the things that you do when you're preparing to record a song or an album?
So for me, it's kind of weird. Being a singer, you don't have any, you don't get to change strings. You don't get to, say, this is the pedal I want to use on the recording. Like for me, whenever I go to do a recording, like my biggest thing is, like, leading up to it, I want to practice what we're going to record. Not a ton. I want to hit them, and if there's any spots that I feel like I need to hit again, or talk about, or try to work through, I'll try to get it again, or maybe we'll play the song again. And that's mostly because sometimes what I do as a singer and a vocalist, like, it doesn't necessarily line up with what you guys do. Sometimes the cadence you guys are in is like a 4/4, and maybe I'm doing like a 4/8 or something like that, or something weird where my timing is different. So I have to make sure that when I hear certain downbeats or certain progression of chords, that I'm doing what I want to do there. So that's, practicing is always huge. It's always very valuable. Even before recording even comes into the picture, practicing is literally your best friend. But then going off of that, like, when I go to do a recording, I definitely, I have a lyric book, for both bands, and I have all the lyrics in there, and if there's anything I have a question on, I'll go back and I'll look at it. I know you and I, Seth, reworked and rewrote the lyrics to Vertigo when we went to the studio, because we wanted to spice it up a little bit, give it a little more flavor. So, and I'm always open for that. If somebody wants to look at my lyrics and sit down and go, well, what exactly are you saying here? And, well, have you tried this or have you thought about this? And it's okay to me to sit down and maybe play with the lyrics a little bit, because it's not set in stone until you record it. And even then, it's not necessarily set in stone.
Yeah, and
but
that's something that I really enjoy, and I love is, the meaning of songs and kind of studying, like, what you're doing and trying to figure out, like,
right.
little ways that we can try to not enhance, but just like, make it the absolute best it can be. And it might be just from an idea or a thought, but like, I love almost like being a producer in that respect of, like, if I hear something, like, just saying, hey, what about this or what about that? I try not to be like intrusive with it, but when I feel like something could, open up or be even greater than it already is, like, I try to speak up and say, hey, what about this or what about that?
Right. And that's cool. Like, as long as, like, I'm always, like I said, I'm always open for people to come in and, read my lyrics, try to, if they think something maybe doesn't feel necessarily right, or if they know that there's a better avenue to go down, I'm willing to take that, as long as you're not an asshole about it. Getting back to, like, my preparation stuff, like, I go over the lyrics, I make sure they're what I want to say, how I want to say it, and how the song, for me, it's weird, when I write music, I don't just write a set of lyrics and then fit it to a song. There's a few songs I've done that to in my life, and even still, like, it doesn't feel right to me. I always wait to hear what the song is trying to tell people, and when I get an idea for a song, like, one of these songs that we're recording with Trawl is called Requiem with Teeth. And that came from you, Seth. You and I started talking about there's a breed of sharks that are called a requiem, like not a breed, but a class. And
a species.
Like, we kind of took that, and so I had this small inkling of what the song was going to be about. And then when Justin came with this guitar riff, and, like, you and Gary started to get these, drum and bass lines, rhythm section rolling, all of a sudden that little inkling fit to this song so well that it just started to blossom. And I don't know if a lot of singers do this. I have talked to a couple. Lucas Damon from Destination Void actually says he does this too. But you'll get the hook or the chorus before anything, just because that's what's the hook. That's what's catching people in. And I've always gone, this is the chorus. Now let's build the verses off of the chorus, because I know where I'm going. I just don't know how to get there yet.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, to kind of start with the chorus and say, all right, here's the big main idea to get across, and then the verses are kind of like the journey on.
Yeah. How do you get there? How can you get to this, this hook, this chorus, that this is the meat and potatoes of the song, is this grandiose chorus or whatever, and how do you get there? One big thing that I personally do when I go to record is, when I'm going to the studio or where I'm recording, I do not listen to any other music at all. I don't listen to music, period, actually. So, like I said, recently I've been having to drive up to the Blanket Fort up in Sabattis, Maine. And that's about a 38-minute, 40-minute drive for me from my house. And the whole time I don't listen to any music, because I don't want anything else influencing what I already know I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it.
That's interesting.
And I will, I do have some warm-ups I do, which is just to try to help wake up and strengthen the vocal cords and the lungs and the diaphragm and all that, so that if I have to scream, I can really put the scream out there. If I have to sing and hold long notes, I can do that. But I do, like, that's usually about 15, 20 minutes of warm-up time for me.
Yeah,
But
I was
yeah,
going to say,
I
especially with Devil's Night Out where you're doing a lot of screaming, like that's kind of a
Yeah.
whole different level of preparation, I would say, for what you're doing there as opposed to maybe what you're doing with Trawl,
it is.
which is
Oh, yeah, it
primarily
definitely is.
singing. Yeah, it's a different muscle.
It's not necessarily a different muscle. It's a different use of a muscle.
Yeah,
Um,
right, exactly.
when I sing, with Trawl, singing with Trawl is actually a lot easier for me than a lot of people. Because I know some people are like, oh, screaming's easy. You just fucking push it out. And it's like, screaming's very difficult. Not everyone
man.
can scream and make it sound good.
Yeah, well, and you're
Uh,
exerting a lot of effort. You're,
Yes.
it's if you're not doing it correctly, you're really straining your vocal cords. So there's some technique, I'm sure, to doing that
There's technique.
correctly.
Yeah,
and-
there's breathing that you have to do to ensure you have enough air to properly push out a scream. Because if you don't put enough air into a scream, you're then kind of shortchanging your lungs for later on, or even you're not preloaded enough to get from like a scream down into a sing that's real quick, transitionally. Um,
yeah,
it's definitely something you have to focus on. And I know some guys that are amazing screamers and they can't sing. Like, they just can't. They don't know why. They can do the screaming all day and the singing has never come to them naturally. And
Yeah.
for me, I feel much better about my singing than I do my screaming, because sometimes I feel like my screams aren't where they could be. And that's one of those things. I'm my own worst enemy. I've had people tell me I have a great screaming voice. I've had people tell me I have a terrible singing voice. It's personal opinion, but I'm my own worst enemy.
no, same here. There's things that I feel like with my instrument that like I could do better or differently, and like you said, other people will support you and say, oh no, that's like totally you're fine, you're doing
Right.
good, but like everyone's
Yeah.
their own kind of worst critic and that respect, and
Oh, I
but I
completely
think that's
agree
what
with
makes you a better musician. You're always trying to achieve, even if it's like a little goal, something a little bit better than you could do before, or a little different. Or,
Right.
What's up, my friends? This is Vinny from Diana Drive, and you are listening to TrawlCast. Everything is gone in your hometown. You're alone now. It's a ghost town. Everything is gone in your hometown. You're alone now. It's a ghost town.
So, yeah, I mean, I got some warm-ups. They're small, they're quick, and that's mostly just to make sure that I don't hurt myself.
Yeah.
I always, always, always have a bunch of water when I record, and I have a ton of tea. Whether I'm singing or screaming, tea and honey will always help a vocalist relax their throat. Once you drink it, the warmth gets into your belly, which can kind of, I feel maybe it's wrong. I'm not necessarily great with the anatomy, but I feel like when I drink a tea and then start singing, like the warm tea in my belly is helping warm up my diaphragm and my lungs, so they're not like, they're quote unquote warmed up because I did
Yeah.
exercises. They're actually physically warmed up, which makes it almost easier. Like, if you do anything cold, you can't do it properly. So I feel like actually physically warming yourself up helps.
That makes sense. I know that, like, when I'm cold or my hands are cold specifically, it's a lot harder to play bass. Like, if you go into like a cold jam space and try to play bass, like, it's a lot harder than when you're warmed up. And I think that's just, like you said, anatomy of, I think, how our joints and muscles move and how, our body reacts to, being cold as opposed to being warm in terms of like just maybe a little bit of difference in your response time, I guess, or your reaction time, because it's thinking about this other necessity, this other hierarchical need of being warm rather than actually just performing.
Right. Well, like I said, your speed changes, your flexibility comes and go. You know, like if you're warm, you're more flexible, you're more malleable. I mean, and from a singer's point of view, it's really hard to sing when your teeth are chattering. Like when you can't open your mouth because you're sitting there shivering, it doesn't work. So, but other than that, like I basically work on the songs with practices. I go over lyrics to ensure it's exactly what I want to say, how I want to say it. And even there have been times that I've gone in with different pieces of lyrics that even the rest of my band won't recognize until they hear it recorded. They're like, wait, didn't you used to say, like, you know, this line here? And I'm like, yeah. But when I looked back over it, I felt like this was a better way to convey the message. And they're like, oh, you're right. Yeah, it's much better. You know, it changed the dynamic slightly, but it made it more powerful.
Yeah.
The thing that really shocks people, and I'll get back to it, is the fact that I don't listen to any music going to the recording. And that's mostly, I don't know if it's just me. I feel like it could be, because I'm definitely an odd animal. But I just feel like I don't, you know, I can't even listen to the songs I'm recording. That's a big thing. I won't even listen to the song I'm recording. Yeah. Which is weird, because you'd figure you'd want to. You want to listen to it to make sure you have the parts, but I just refuse to, because it's almost like back when I was a kid in high school, I didn't listen to the band I was going to see that night in concert, because I felt like if I did, I was going to jinx the concert by listening to that band.
No, it's interesting you say that. I've heard other people say that before. I haven't been, like, I definitely will listen to the band on the day of, or when we're going to record. Like, I'm usually always listening to something on the way, whether it's what we're actually going to be, like a demo version of what we're recording, or like, you know, just something else that I'm trying to tap into. But I also understand and appreciate where you're coming from, where like, it's almost this sort of Zen-like thing where you're separating yourself just for a little bit from what you're about to do, as a way to clear your mind of any, you know, anything. And
yes,
you can definitely, if you're not careful, fatigue your ears by listening to too much music before you have to go to the studio. So it's actually a really smart thing to give your ears a break. And I know that, you know, sound engineers and you know, recording engineers will say the same about, you know, when they are mixing, you know, once your ears fatigue, it's really hard to hear the music the same way. So taking breaks from music can actually really help you come back to it fresh in that respect.
Right. Well, and one thing, I know that this is definitely my secret. I don't listen to music, I've mentioned that, but what I do listen to, and it's something that helps me get into the mood, and this is going to sound fucking terrible. I love listening to podcasts about serial killers while I'm driving to the recording studio.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, well, I mean, so Devil's Night Out, we're recording a 10-song CD, and I've gone up there 5 times. I do 2 songs a day, and I've had to go up 5 times. Like I said, just finished it, and every time I drove there, it was a serial killer podcast. Actually, it was the podcast Serial Killers from the Parcast Network. They do a great job of just talking about serial killers. And for Devil's Night Out, I had to get a little bit more into the mentality of anger and like almost raw, nasty emotions to really get what I wanted to get out. and done correctly. So driving up and listening to all these sick and deranged fucking lunatics doing their stupid, gross, horrifying things to people, it got me into almost a bad mindset, which then was able to be channeled into the recording process. And I mean, I personally think this is some of the better, screams I've ever done on an album. And Adam Nichols, the gentleman recording us of Loki fame, him and I have done a lot of work on the songs. Actually, him and I were talking, and this is the biggest vocal production he has ever done. And
wow,
it's gotten to the point where there's been some songs that have like 10 different vocal tracks. There's doubles, triples, quadruples. I know one song we actually sextupled a line just to give it some real emphasis. And I'll be honest, there's been actually, if we would have recorded last week, my voice would not be as good as it is right now, because last weekend I went in, I did 4 songs in 2 days, and I'll tell you, the second day I did a song, and we did, I think it was 8 vocal tracks, and he had me like triple a bunch of screams, and it's probably the most lyrics that I've ever written for one song.
Wow.
And he reminded me, you wrote this. It's your fault.
That's the thing, yeah. I've definitely written parts before where you're like, oh man, I have to play this every show. I have to record this. I have to be able to nail it. Like, sometimes you can definitely, set yourself up with writing a part, but I try not to ever think about that in terms of like limiting myself for the sake of convenience. Like, I want to write the part that I want to write, regardless of like how easy it is or hard it is for me to play. And
well, and that's something that as a vocalist, I will say to other vocalists, write exactly what you want to write, but do it in a way that's going to give you a chance to breathe and to save yourself later on. When you're in the vocal booth and you're fucking hitting these lines, and then they want you to do it again, and then you need to triple it, and you have to hit it the exact same way 3 times. Sometimes you just burn yourself out because you've hit the same note 3 times, and maybe that was a really hard note, and you're like, I only got to do this 1 time in the song. But yeah, when you record it, you may have to do it 3, 4, 5 times to help emphasize it.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Shell from the band Stillborn Condition, and you are listening to the TrawlCast.
How do you choose tracks, or how have you chosen tracks in the past for your recordings?
Yeah, I think for me and the all the projects that I've worked on, you always, depending on your budget, how many songs you're gonna record, whether it's a single or an EP. Most of the time it's an EP, honestly. You're picking 4 or 5 songs to go after. Always go for, I think, the songs that the band can play most confidently at that moment, and the ones that you feel are worthy of, spending the time and the money on, that you feel are, well loved and well, developed enough where, the band has put the work in, to hopefully, make them close to as good as they can be. And then with the help of a producer engineer, you can take them to that next level. And then when you're thinking about, when you have, 4 or 5 songs on an EP, you almost have to also consider, the pacing of it as a body of work together and go, okay, well, do we have 5 super fast songs, or do we have too many slow songs? You have to,
Right.
in my opinion, on a 5-song EP, you probably want at least 2 or 3 bangers that are good, mid-tempo to mid to fast tempo, energetic songs, and then you can get
Right.
away with one more ballad type song, or maybe something that's just lower tempo, and then
Right.
maybe you can throw in a song that's a little off kilter, but you've got kind of a core of 3 out of the 5 being pretty strong, listenable tracks that are, in a perfect world,
Well, I'll be honest. You just basically described the entire Trawl EP that we're working on right now. We have, I
Yeah.
feel like we have 2-3 songs that are absolute bangers that are gonna. I know one of them is something we've never played live ever, so it's a brand new song, and I think it's gonna shock people. I think it's gonna be something that people really dig. And then the other songs we've done
so.
before, people have heard them live, and we have, one song that's maybe a little bit slower tempo, and we got a good solid one that's just there. It's got a good speed. But I feel like you've just described exactly the Trawl EP.
Well, it's funny, and I didn't try to do that too, because I was thinking about when we've done like Loki EPs in the past and like how we've approached that,
Right.
choosing songs and just kind of how that's gone along, knowing what you can get away with in like a 5-song EP. But
Mhm.
I say always go for your strongest material. Every band wants to record their newest material always, because that's just forever
you
what
stay
bands want to
fresh.
do. You write a song and you think it's the best song you've ever written. But I'd say being able to play something confidently comes across sometimes more than, or better than, the brand new song that you're still trying to work out the kinks, and you like it a lot, but it's not there yet. Let it develop. Let it get to the point
Let it
where
stew. Yeah.
everybody's playing it with their muscle memory and not trying to remember it as they're playing it, because that's going to totally come across in the recording.
Right. I like having I do think, if you write a new song or 2 and throw it on the album, that's cool. That's fine. But don't necessarily kill yourself and try to write, if you're doing 6 songs, I say don't do 6 songs that you've never tested in the live market. It sounds very, business savvy there, but if you haven't tried it once or twice and seen somewhat of a reaction to it, you might falter. You might hit a home run. You might not. You don't know. You got to try it before you buy it,
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I've always been an advocate of, playing songs live for a while and seeing how people take to them. Sometimes like a fan favorite will kind of form out of, you playing something new for,
Oh, for sure.
3, 4, 5 months. Like they start asking for that song, and then that's a song you want to record. Whereas, I've definitely, we've written stuff in the past. We tried it and it just got crickets, and we know, okay, like either that needs a lot of rework, or we just scrap it,
Right.
and that's something that I think is an advantage of being a local and independent band, as opposed to a national band, because once you get on a label, as you guys probably have realized, like when a national artist puts out a new album, it's probably going to be mostly all songs you've never heard before, because they kind of go back to the laboratory, write, and then they have the time to go in and write in the studio and be able to develop songs and then record them, then release them to the world, which is a totally different process than how most local bands are operating.
Hi, this is Raph from Pink Octopus, Sydney, Australia. You are listening to TrawlCast.
So let's talk about places we've been, man. Like people we've worked with, because I know we've both worked at Halo, and
Yeah, man.
you've been lucky enough to work with Wyman, and Kevin. I've only worked with Kevin.
So yeah, just to talk about Halo a little bit.
Yeah.
I've been lucky enough to get to work at Halo for pretty much the past 14 years. Worked with John Wyman for many years in many projects with Loki and Fifth Freedom and then most recently, Trawl, got to work with Kevin Billingsley on the 2 songs that we've put out so far. And it was really awesome to be able to bring the current band and you, Sean, there, because I always, Halo's always been this sacred place for me, and I've, worked there for so long and got to do so many cool things, and I cherish what I've been able to do, because I know that it's not something that, is easy. In most cases, the bands I've been part of, or me personally, have had to, save for several years in between going back to the studio. So it's not something that you...
Yeah, going to the studio is not a lot of people think it's just oh, you just go and blah, blah, blah. No, it's expensive. It can be thousands of dollars for a song. And we've been lucky enough with Trawl to go into Halo twice and record. And honestly, I mean, that's the first time I'd ever been to Halo. You definitely hyped it up a lot, man. I'll be honest. You got me worked up like a motherfucker. Because I'd never recorded in a giant studio like that, and especially one that was so well known throughout the world. So being able to go in there and experience Halo was amazing. And Kevin, Kevin's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. I love the guy to death, because he sits back, he has fun, but when it's time to fucking work, he's gonna work your ass.
Yes.
Personally for me, when he put me in the vocal booth, man, that was a lot of fucking work, and I was I don't think I've ever worked this hard for anything in my life. And he's just in there nope, do it again. Nope, you got a better one. Nope, let's do this again. All right, double it.
Yeah, man. Well, and he has an incredible ear. So doesn't Wyman.
Yes.
Just incredible
Absolutely.
ears, and they're really both excellent at working with artists and knowing how to get the best performance out of you in a way that is encouraging and helps you to, realize the song, realize whatever attitude and vibe you're going for, and really nail it. Because especially with vocals, Wyman has said it to me before, not candy coating it. Vocals are the most important part of a music arrangement, because that's what people are going to hear, and that's what they're going to, kind of judge it based on. An amazing band with okay vocals, it's not going to carry it. It's got to have the whole package. You got to have both.
Right.
So, they definitely help you get that. They both both do. And I think, yeah, man, I've definitely cherished those sessions to be able to go and do that. And it's been one of the most single most motivating experiences of my life as a musician, to work hard knowing that at the end of that 2 years, we're going to go back into the studio. The only thing I can equate it to for people who have never recorded is it's like getting a tattoo. You know,
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, like you're going to go and you saved up your money, you're going to go to this artist that you really appreciate, and then you're going to sit in the chair, and it's going to hurt. It's going to take some time. It's going to be hard, but at the end of it, you're going to have this beautiful thing that you can appreciate forever, and nobody can take it away from you. You know, nobody can take a tattoo away from you. It's yours forever. Nobody can take a recording away from you. It's something that you've done as an artist that's yours forever.
That's a really good analogy, man. That's probably the best analogy to recording I've ever heard.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's just I really get, kind of emotional about it because, like, both Wyman and Kevin, have these virtues about what they do, and, making sure that they're, representing the music and getting you to be in the right headspace. And it's a lot of qualitative alongside the quantitative. The qualitative things being the concepts, the things that you have to think about, and the vibe that you have, and the camaraderie, and getting all of everyone into the studio and into the right headspace. And then the quantitative stuff will happen. All of the technical aspects and things like that. But and I think you touched on it before with, like, talking about, getting yourself into the right headspace, going to the studio, like listening to those podcasts because, like, you wanted to get into a certain vibe and mood. I think that's, really important, is like your environment, the vibe of the session is going to come through on the recording. It's definitely there. It's a thing.
Right.
It's palpable that you can experience. So that's the other part of it. It's not just the going there because it's a big studio. It's the people. It's Wyman. It's Kevin.
It's not necessarily just you're going into a studio, you're recording. There's an experience, and the people you work with, and the bandmates you take with you. It's a different animal, and sometimes when you're recording, you won't necessarily have everyone there. So, I know personally for me recently, I haven't had anybody else. There's been a couple guest appearances on the album, but it's basically been me by myself in a studio, and that's, for me personally, I like it because I get to kind of, really
focus.
Not only focus, but get into a different mindset. You know what I mean? Like,
that's a good thought. That's a good way to put that.
Yeah. We recorded a song, Ascension, and it's a song that I have a lot of emotions about. The song Ascension for Devil's Night Out is a song that is, the lyrics were written for my two children. I don't know how my voice stopped, my mouth stopped working there, but wrote the lyrics for my two kids. They mean a lot to me because what I put into the song lyrically and what I put onto, the recording, it has to be right. And I'll be honest, like, being in a studio and being by myself, it allowed me to get into a zone and a headspace that allowed me to release the stuff I needed to release to make the song feel and sound right from a vocalist standpoint.
Yeah.
And when you hear the album, you'll actually hear, I'll be honest, I actually was physically crying while recording the song, and Adam just let it go. He didn't say anything. He just kept going. And then when I stepped away, and he didn't hear anything recording or in the microphone anymore. He just kind of hit stop, and he was like, all right, let's move on. Like, he didn't say anything, and
Yeah.
like, I literally was wiping tears off my face. I hope it comes through in the song, because honestly, it was actually physically, truly emotional, and it helped being alone to do that. Recording Carchardon, I know Kevin kicked all of you guys out of the
Yeah.
control room and just kind of had a Kevin and Sean moment, which I didn't know about until, like, you told me after I'd finished recording, like, yeah, he kicked us out.
Yeah, nobody else was in there. Yeah, he kicked us out. He's like, all right, everybody, let's get out for a minute. And
Yeah.
he had a special.
And that was,
he had some special plans to try to get something really interesting.
and he definitely did. And it was literally like, he said, I've been making some comments, and he's like, well, explain what you've been talking about all night. So him and I just kind of had almost just a candid therapy session that only Kevin and I know about. Like, him and I know what was said. You guys kind of got like a generalized kind of description of what was said, but him and I started just talking, and it turned into, something really cool that he used on the recording process. And then he actually, later on during Carchardon, at the very end, when you listen to the song, you'll hear me at the very end be very out of breath. And that's because Kevin actually made me do, like, I think he said like 50, and I did like 100 jumping jacks or something like that. Like, he just made me, he's like,
Yeah.
do a bunch of jumping jacks right now as fast as you can. And if there was a video camera in that vocal booth, y'all would have been laughing your asses off, because I was fucking jumping jacks like a maniac, just fucking flying. I did like I said, 100 in like a minute. Like, I was flying, and he's like, all right, we're gonna record, go. And then I did it, and I was so out of breath. But
Yeah, that very
It
end
was-
of Carchardon. And
Yeah.
it comes through on the recording, because you've got that breathy.
because I was
thing, and
gonna
just-
die.
Yeah, and it works cool, because it just makes a cool expression that you probably couldn't have just. If you would have just done it, if he asked you to do that, it wouldn't have been as kind of genuine, because it would have been like,
Yeah.
sounded like you were trying to, fake it. So
Right, and that's the thing, is he got me set in that mindset, and working with Kevin was amazing, because he just knew what buttons to push to get you to do what he wanted you to do. And it was
Yeah.
super cool to see that. And I know Adam has kind of been doing that too. He's been taking, because Adam, with you, has been to Halo Studios a bunch. And
yeah, we recorded a bunch with Wyman, over the years, Adam and I, and
Yeah.
with Loki. So yeah,
He's been stealing a lot of their tips and tricks, and like their methods of doing stuff. And like, we'll be recording, and he'll say something, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I've heard that said before at another place called Halo. And he's like, yep, that's where I got it from.
yep, yeah. They definitely instilled so many, things in us over the years. Just good habits. I felt like what was great about going to Halo is literally every time I left in an EP or an album experience, I'm like, I felt like I was a little bit of a better musician, or I had even more tools to carry along with me to the next recording, where I was more prepared, and all those
Right.
tips I was saying earlier about the things I do before I get to the studio, and the things I do, a lot of that came from the first time you show up at a studio and Wyman's like, let me see that bass, grabs it from me, and is like, this thing's way out of intonation. What happened? And me being, 20, early 20s, like, I don't know, like, I didn't know about intonation. And then the next time I show up at the studio, you better know that I'm going to have that thing intonated. Like, I would take what I learned from the first session, and then I used it to get better as a
To
musician.
build.
I think that's
Yeah, you built off of your first experience to make a better second experience. That's what everyone should do when they record, is build off of what you did the first time and learn from
Yeah.
that.
yeah.
I know I've been to some not so great recording experiences, and that's part of learning. That's part of beginning the process of recording music.
Hey, what's up? This is John from Alliance. You're listening to Seth and Sean on TrawlCast.
Yeah, and to talk about some other places, back before Halo, I did a couple of demo recordings at Big Sound Studios in Westbrook when that was in its heyday, and I've done a ton of stuff over the years, just in garages and things like that, just demos and all of that.
Well, speaking of garages, what about the Blanket Fort? I know you've recorded there.
So yeah,
because I have.
Just recently, I got to record a few songs with Adam at Blanket Fort, which I was really excited about because honestly, since I had stepped away from Loki and this past like 3 or 4 years had gone by, I didn't get the chance to go back to the space, back to record with Adam, and he's been in this time frame, in the same time frame, getting better at recording, getting
new
gear,
toys,
just honing in his skills and becoming a master at what he's doing, and which, like I've said before, I'm super proud of him. And I got to record a couple of songs with a side project that I'm working on with John Taylor, and we were, Adam's playing drums on it as well. He's also recording and mixing. So honestly, a full album's worth of songs, at least, if not more, that will hopefully see the light of day sometime in the next, year or so, I would say. But we will most likely put them out one at a time for a little while at least. But I don't know the release strategy on that yet, but it's been really awesome to go up there and, record with Adam. It's just super cool for a lot of reasons. Me and Adam go back far, so it's so cool to see him be able to do this and to be able to support, what he's doing. So you guys have recorded every Devil's Night Out recording with Adam, right? I mean, pretty close.
Yes, 3 of the 4 times Devil's Night Out has put out recorded music, it has been with Adam, and you're right, he just keeps getting better. It's awesome to see. I especially like it because the first time we recorded with him, we did 2 songs, nice and easy, just get in, bang them out, and it was, you could see he was starting to get the process, he was starting to make some, changes, and then you look at what we did then, and then the second time we went in, he had more toys, he had different microphones for me, I know he had different techniques he was trying, and then this third time that we've gone and recorded with him, it's been totally different. The variations of the Blanket Fort that I've been involved in have been awesome, and a lot of people, they don't know this, but when we call it the Blanket Fort, the reason we call it the Blanket Fort is because Adam uses blankets as sound dampening tools. When you're in the vocal booth there, you're literally in like blankets. Like he hangs blankets up around you, and it's awesome. It's an experience in and of itself, and I love it. But every time we've gone there, he's done something just a bit differently. Just the way he's recorded certain people, or like I said, the tips or the tricks or the techniques he's used has been different, and it's cool to see the progression because the first time I recorded, it was, okay, give me vocals. All right, cool. I think you got a better one in you. So we do it again. He's like, I like that one. I can work with that one. All right, let's double it. It was pretty simple. It was like bang, bang. The second time, it was a little bit more intricate. Like, okay, you got a better one. Let's try to do this. Let's put like a second track that's below this. That's, maybe you're screaming or you're talking or something like that. This time around, like I said earlier, this has been the biggest vocal composition he's ever done. Every single track that we've done has been multiple vocal tracks, has been, like I said, doubling, tripling, quadrupling, and it's been massive. There's been days where I've left that place and like driving home, like I knew like that was awesome, but fuck, am I tired? And does my voice hurt? Like, oh my God.
Man.
But it's worth it. It's very much worth it. And Adam loves to get the best out of you, no matter what. And he actually has kind of come to that that mindset of not killing the person he's recording. I think a lot of the bigger studios like Halo, I know Kevin has, when we were recording Carchardon with him, he was like, all right, don't kill yourself. Like, we need your voice. So, maybe ease up a little
strategy
bit.
To it.
And Adam has gotten to that point because there was definitely, like the first time we kind of just were banging out as many songs as we can in a day. And it was cool and all, but it definitely got to a point where like, the voice is getting real rough, and maybe we, I'll get these last few lines out, but they're not going to be great.
And that's the thing, you gotta, right, like you said, kind of know your limitations, and I think, as Adams becomes a more experienced as an engineer, he's able to see, okay, this guy's done, get him out of there. Don't try to.
Yeah, he's cooked. Toss him. But that's the fun part. It's he's been getting better at recognizing, like, especially with a vocalist, because this sounds very egotistical, but we are a special breed, and we have to kind of be handled with kid gloves.
No, it's definitely, vocals are such a different animal than bass, and from my perspective, because like you said, it's one thing to have your hands be a little tired, and mine certainly do get tired, especially now, being in my 30s, but and the way I play,
you old bastard.
And the way I play, I say I meat paw everything, I give everything the goon hand, because I'm a super heavy-handed player with my right hand, and I know it. And the style of music we play, with a lot of slaps and pops and stuff like that, can be fatiguing, and like I'm always trying to approach things the best way I can so that they sound great on the other end, not necessarily what works best mechanically for me, for best posture or best technique, for economy of motion and things like that. So I'm kind of a maniac when it comes to bass in that respect, where I have little regard for what I'm doing to myself, as long as I can get the sound I want out of the bass. But I'm trying as I, like I said, I get a little bit older, to just be mindful of things, and like try to be better to myself in that respect. But it's one problem I know I have, that like I'm definitely hard on myself. But
I do gotta say, I am jealous of the fact that you guys get to sit down when you record. That's always like, I always love seeing that, like, guitarist and bassist, you guys get to take almost like a break. When we play live shows, like, you guys don't get to sit down. You for the most part, you guys have to be on your feet moving around. As a singer, you can be kind of goofy and like sit down on the stage or on the front of the stage and keep singing a song or whatever. But recording, like, I've never, ever, ever been able to sit down and record vocals. Like, I have to stand up. I'm always uncomfortable. I sweat like a friggin', a steak in a friggin' oven. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous of you guys getting to sit down and kind of just sit there in your zone. And, I know Tyler, my guitarist for Devil's Night Out, like, he sits down and he kind of like lays back and he just goes at it. And it's like, you lucky son of a bitch.
See, I'm always like super tense when I play, when I'm sitting down anyway. So I'm not super relaxed. Like, I can't
Right.
just like let my back hit the back of the chair. I'm literally sitting on the edge of the chair, usually like I said, just super tense and
Right.
playing everything.
Yeah, no, I've
like,
seen it. I've seen it, ladies and gentlemen. He does sit right on the edge, like he's in that moment right then and there. You can't take Seth out of recording. It's awesome.
It's one of my favorite things in the world to do. And to talk a little bit about how things are going to be different this time around with recording is something that I've been thinking about a ton. Because I've come from the school I came from, recording at traditional studios. We've decided this time to record the new EP, and we'll definitely talk more about this later once we get into it. But we're going to be recording with our guitarist Justin Patry at his recording studio, which is also our jam space, the Cold Northeast Recording Studios in Biddeford. And
Right.
Justin's been recording other bands, his own bands, for many years. He's an awesome guitar player. He's an awesome engineer. He's got the gear, the know-how.
He definitely has a lot of know-how, which is great because coming from where we, from my point of view I've never had the opportunity to have somebody like in the band know what the fuck they're doing when it comes to recording. So having Justin be like, oh yeah, that's easy. We can just do this. And if you run this preamp and you throw this plug-in in and like somebody that can do that is literally a godsend because I was sitting with Adam the other day and he was talking to one of the special guests on the Devil's Night Out album, and they both are recording guys. Like Adam's got his thing going. This guy used to work for, I want to say Big Sound. I think that's what he said. And like they know the lingo. They're kind of talking back and forth. I was just sitting in the corner like, the fuck's going on? Like, what are you guys talking about? Because I don't know. The podcast, that's the most technical I've gotten into recording. And that's, even right now, if anyone could see my setup, they'd laugh because we're making this podcast and I have the most minimalistic setup, but we make it sound good. And that's because I have Seth editing it for me and I don't have to sound like an asshole.
So I'm excited. Justin has a lot of technical aptitude, and he's bringing a lot of creativity to our project. And it's different though because we're probably going to end up doing a lot of things like you're talking about, where we're going to be, recording one person per week. Or over a period of time, we're going to be in different places. It's it's a little bit different than the traditional way of, putting all the kids in the pool and you're all recording, you're all there, you're all part of it, you're all, stuck there with each other for several days. It's a longer process where you're a bit more solo and you get to try things. Oh, I did scratch tracks. I'm going to do, I'm going to take those again, or you're going to record vocals probably last, so it'll be like you just did, probably by yourself.
Right.
That's something that, to me, is something that I'm going to have to get used to because...
it's a different animal. You've never dealt with this kind of
Which
separation.
There are some things that I really think I'll like about that process because, I'm meticulous. I know how I want my bass to sound. I know what I'm going for. So I'm going to be able to hopefully capture that as best I can. And
Right.
if I feel like I got to take it again, I have the luxury of taking the parts again.
Mhm.
I think the balance comes in, not driving yourself insane where you have the chance to do everything over and over and over and over and over, knowing when to say, okay, this is damn good. It's ready to be mixed. That's something that I'm hoping that, we'll find the balance in, and find the, just the camaraderie of still being able to work together on a project and feel like we're all, cohesive and part of it, but
Right.
apart in the sense that, we didn't do it all at the same time in the same space over the course of a few days as opposed to a few months or, so yeah, that's one thing that I'm curious. And the other thing, I'm learning a ton because, over the quarantine, I've taught myself a little bit about home recording. I got a DAW. I got an interface. I've been messing around with different ways to record the bass. And then when we started recording the EP, Justin's been showing me how to use Pro Tools. So I'm actually learning a ton too. So I'm going from being the artist who goes into a studio to record to being an artist who can also record myself. So
That's sick too, man. That's awesome that you've taken this chance, this opportunity while, the world's on fire. Like you've bettered yourself. I remember when we first started talking about recording the podcast, like we were trying to figure out the logistics, and you kind of built yourself this almost mini studio in your own place to do, your own stuff. You actually gave us some scratch tracks for the new Trawl EP, and you recorded them at home. Like, you didn't have to go into the studio. You didn't have to go to a jam spot. Like, you were able to sit down with some headphones and plug in and basically get it done so that we have some scratch tracks there. And that's cool. Like, that changed everything on how we, progressed the music.
Yeah, thank you. And, I'm certainly trying, and I'm just trying to be open to this new process and to be trusting of everybody, be trusting of you guys, be trusting of myself, and knowing that, like, if we put in 1,000% and we're diligent and we try our asses off, and, when we're done tracking, we send the mixes to wherever we're going to send them. We haven't exactly decided yet, but, have somebody else involved in the process of mixing to bring them to the next level, that we can put out something that's, honest and, but hopefully that people really want to listen to, that we, did in a little bit of a different way. We're at a point, where, financially, the big studio option isn't an option for us this time, and
Right.
for me that's a scary idea, but
Yeah.
I've totally flipped my mindset over the past 4 or 5 months, 6 months to say,
Right.
you know what, I'm ready to try something new. I'm ready to or just try something different.
Right. Well, and that stems from not being able to play shows and stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that us as local musicians, we don't necessarily make that much money off of music and playing
No.
it. And when we do get a chance to do that, like, and we play shows, like any little bit of money we take from that, we put and reinvest into the band. Like, we don't make the money off of this. I know
No.
Trawl, we've
No.
basically, you sold some comic books to record the first album and help pay for that, and we've used pretty much every show we've played, and any money from that has gone literally straight back into the coffer for recording again. and kind of, we kind of cleared ourselves out with Vertigo, and then we're ready to basically start jumping back in and swinging for the fences, record, with shows and stuff, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, you can't. The COVID-19 situation kind of stopped that, and then, that basically dried up pretty much all the finances we had to,
absolutely,
push
and
for
then
a new
some,
recording.
you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it costs thousands to be able to do, what we want to do, and in any fashion really, and it's been a lot of our own money and hard work, and we definitely don't make money at it. It's really a labor of love, and I'm excited. I'm excited to do this project, and I think it'll mean as much, if not more, because we're really taking charge of every piece of the process ourselves in a different way than I ever have. But I'm confident and I'm excited about it.
This is Ian from Division North, and you're tuned in to Good Cop, Bad Cop on TrawlCast.
All right, so I think that's a good place to wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for tuning into TrawlCast. If you like what you hear, we are available on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Outcasts, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, and many, many others. So hit that subscribe button. As soon as a new episode drops, it'll be there, ready and waiting for you. We're also on YouTube. All you have to do is go to youtube.com/TrawlPortlandME, and we are there. We've got all the episodes of TrawlCast up there, the few singles we have up there. We do have some live videos of us playing, so you get to see that. Head on over to our YouTube channel. If you are able to, rate and review us 5 stars, give us a little write-up, and tell people what you liked. If you want to send us a voice message, all you have to do is go to anchor.fm/TrawlCast. There's a little button there. Click it, record a voice message, send it our way. We'll integrate it into an episode. You'll hear your voice right here on the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. So if you got a question, a comment, or just want to say hi, go for it. We'd love to hear from you. If you do have a question, comment, a show suggestion, or want to send in a message a different way, all you got to do is cast a line to us at trawlband@gmail.com. We check the email every day. We say it every time. So if you got something for us, we'll see it. We'll get it into the episode as soon as we can. For more information about Trawl and all things Trawl related, all you got to do is go to www.trawlband.com. It's our website. We try to post everything up there when things come in. It also has a link to our web store, so if you do want to, buy some merchandise for Trawl, you can go there. I know there is a sweatshirt that I've been trying to buy that I just keep forgetting to do because life sucks and I keep forgetting things. But if you go to the website, there's a link to the web store, and you can buy some really sweet merch there. We've got sweatshirts, we've got regular t-shirts. I believe there is a coffee mug up there, right?
Yes, there is.
All right, cool. So get a coffee mug, people. You can have your morning coffee and show people that you're a fan of Trawl. But again, thank you so much for listening. My name's Sean Matthews.
I'm Seth McClellan.
And we will see you all next time on TrawlCast.